Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to be talking about Hellraiser, and more specifically, the rights to Hellraiser. Because kind of like Friday the 13th before it, Hellraiser is going to be going through a rights battle with the current studio that owns it and its original creator and the director of the original film, Clive Barker. So to give a little background on this, like I said, Friday the 13th has kind of been going through this for the last like 3 to 4 years. They've basically been in kind of a legal battle. The company that currently owns the rights, which is a company that's owned by Sean Cunningham, that had wanted to reboot the film again or the franchise again, is being sued by the original author of the screenplay for the first Friday the 13th, who claims that it is his intellectual property. And actually, that's been going back and forth a little bit because he originally won the suit, and then Sean Cunningham appealed, and the appeal was upheld, and now it's been in battle ever since. So, I mean, he already won once, but this is a bit of a different animal, and I'm going to kind of go over that. But basically, what happened is Clive Barker is intent on suing, like I said, the current rights holders of the Hellraiser franchise, and the most recent Hellraiser actually came out in 2018, I believe. Hellraiser Judgment, which had two pinheads in it, if I remember, because they had like this weird marketing campaign where there were two pinheads in all the shots and stuff like that. And one of the pinheads was being played by a different actor instead of the original pinhead actor, so it was kind of weird to see that. Um, so Barker is planning on suing Park Avenue Productions, and who are like I said, are the current rights holders. And I think this is ultimately going to go to Barker in the end. Although they do state that the earliest date that he could regain control of the film, or of the intellectual property, would be December 19th of 2021. And his lawyer, who announced this via a tweet, stated that basically they could make a movie before that date and be fine, but they just can't do anything after that. So you could still see a Hellraiser reboot, which has apparently been in production. Now, it's speculated that the reason why Barker wants to get this back is because of the lackluster sequels, because of the fact that Hellraiser is planning to be rebooted, and he originally gave a Hellraiser script to the rights owners at the time when that was in discussion, which I guess he states was disregarded and completely forgotten about. Um, so I think he just wants control over something that he ultimately made because he wanted control over something, which is ironic. Um, because originally the movie Rawhead Rex, which was I believe put out in '86 or '87, was written by Clive Barker, but it was a very, very, very different story than what people got, and a very different monster as well. And he was kind of, this isn't necessarily official, but it's kind of assumed that he was kind of disgusted by it, and he wound up trying to adapt his novella called The Hellbound Heart, and that wound up becoming Hellraiser, which, again, he directed for, I believe the budget for that was less than $1 million. It was something around 800,000. And ultimately, that movie became a smash hit, but he was never really, I mean, I shouldn't say this, he never came back into the director's chair to direct any of the sequels. The only other movie I think he directed was Nightbreed, if I remember correctly. It maybe one other, and I know that he produced Candyman. But the thing is that when you the reason why he did it was because he was tired of people adapting his material and doing it shittily. And now he's repossessing the same property for the reason that people have been readapting it shittily. But I'd be interested to see what Barker would have planned to kind of revamp the franchise and change things around. Um, and I think that's something that Hellraiser could use, because really Hellraiser kind of fell off the face of the earth after like the third or fourth film in the franchise. People still followed it, but it wasn't a big franchise anymore. It wasn't. It in turn. The thing. I think the difference that I can say between something like Friday the 13th and something like Hellraiser is a lot of the Friday the 13th sequels are actually really good. There are some that are complete god awful pieces of shit, but Seven, even though the gore is cut out of it, I still give John Carl Buechler the benefit of the doubt on that, and I think Seven is an amazing film. I just wish it had those moments back in it, but I have to say it's a good film, and I really do enjoy it. Part four, which is everybody knows that. Part three is great. Um, you know, part part six is kind of I think it's great in certain ways, but it lacks in others. But there's a lot of good sequels in there. With Hellraiser, you really have two, and then like three is kind of the downward spiral. Three was not that good, and then four, five, six. I think they've made like seven or eight of them now. But it just turns into a gimmicky thing, or it turns into the same formula where Pinhead makes a bunch of new Cenobites at the beginning of the movie from random people that he just happens to encounter, and then they just go on a killing spree and start murdering people with disgusting, horrifying ways because somebody wants to fuck around with a puzzle box. The only one that I would consider relatively good is Hellraiser 2. I think Hellraiser 2 is actually a very good companion piece to the first film. But the reason why I think Clive is going to win this over over the Friday the 13th people, in terms of in terms of going in and saying, because Friday the 13th is a bit of a different scenario. And I went over this earlier, where Clive is the person who originated all the material, and he also directed the first film. But like I said, he had to sell the part of the deal probably to direct that film was to sell the rights to the studio at the time, which I believe was Roger Corman's New World Pictures. So when he sold the rights, he knew he was probably never going to get them back, but he was given the chance to make his movie how he wanted to do it, which is really what he wanted to do. Is he just wanted to present the material in the light that it should be presented in, and he was able to do that in spades. But this is just this is actually probably the highest profile one of these lawsuits that we've seen outside of the Friday the 13th one. Like I said, Terminator. I think I don't remember if that's actually still going through that right now, or if they're kind of in delegation before they actually go to court. Because I think that one's fairly recent. But there have been others. And I did a video on this a while back, but I'd be curious to see what Clive actually wants to do with the material, and I'd be curious to see what's actually in that script he wrote for a reboot of the film. Because I'm sure that if he gets the rights back, he'll try and do the same thing that he did initially, which is to try and get a reboot off the ground with him behind the camera. Which I would 100% back that, just because it's Clive Barker. His material on screen. At least the material that he was directly involved in and he directed and had creative control over, is amazing. It's totally original in the realm of horror for the most part. I can't think of another type of villain that's like somebody like Pinhead. It doesn't register with me like anybody that's he's kind of off by himself. I wouldn't put him above or below certain other characters, but he's kind of on his own in terms of the originality of the way that he functions. Jason's just a burly zombie running around murdering people. Michael Myers is a less burly zombie running around murdering people. Freddy Krueger kills you in your dreams. Leatherface hacks you up with a chainsaw. Like it's all very basic. It's all very gruesome. But Pinhead ripping your skin apart with meat hooks, like that is just fucked up. And the other shit that he manages to do with people too, just the various ways that he tortures them over the course of the series. Even though, like I said, those weren't done by Clive, but it's still kind of entertaining to see Pinhead murder people. So, I think that if he came back and did it, I think it would be something that would be good for horror as a genre, because I think horror needs people like Clive Barker. We need that level of weirdness that he's able to go to, because there's really nobody else that's doing that right now. There's nobody that's making anything that's even close to what Hellraiser was back in 1987. There's nobody putting anything out that's kind of in that vein of just that weird, sexual, violent, fucked up horror. Other than maybe some really low level stuff, but it's not being done at a level where it actually has a production budget worthy of what it should be. So that's kind of my opinion on this, and what what I kind of take from Clive Barker going out and doing this. A lot of it is speculation, but I feel like it's speculation that's kind of in a logical vein, considering what Clive Barker has done in the past regarding his properties. But I want to know what you think. Would you be interested in seeing a Hellraiser reboot that's done by Clive Barker? Do you hope that he wins the legal battle so he can get the rights back? Or do you think that maybe he's just doing this so that they can't just keep using the material and running it into the ground? As usual, put your thoughts in the comments below. I like to read them. Hit the bell for notifications, hit the like button, subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?